Through constant evaluations through our spring electrofishing surveys, we have creel programs and talk to anglers and document their catches, and we get socioeconomics from all those kind of things. We do different kinds of netting, seining, and just engaging with all that and then pouring over that data and looking at it comparatively, 10, 20 years and seeing kind of where things are going. And a big challenge in going back to the bass, what's really leading management decisions with that stocking program are genetic tests. So we collect fish and we can age them. We know what size obviously that fish is, and we take a fin clip and send it off, and we get a genetic composite back of that fish. So we'll be able to tell this composite of fish, a F1, a pure northern, pure Florida, or some convoluted of all that. This is our best growing fish. So that's what we want to be tailoring that place to put in it or try to grow or whatever, because we know that's the best product.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today, and I am in the woods. Well, I feel like I'm in the woods. I got a bear standing over my shoulder here. We're at Region 3, the Region 3 office here in Crossville, Tennessee, and happy to be here. Mimi Barnes is helping me co-host and invited us over. Thanks for that.
Yeah, welcome to the region.
Yeah, and we got Mr. Mike Jolley. He's our guest today. We're going to be talking Chickamauga.
There you go.
So I'm excited. Good to be here with you.
Thank you. Good
Ears
to be here.
just perked up. Chickamauga.
Yeah, it's a fun lake, and it's growing some big fish and a lot of fish, so we're going to talk about it today.
Sure.
But the bear, I got to reference the bear one more time. It was the first bear killed
On the plateau in 50 years.
Okay.
Donated by Mr. Wendell Friels. So, Mr. Friels, if you're listening, thank you so much for the donation. A lot of people come in, have their photo taken with it.
Yeah. 428 pounds.
Yeah, 428-pound black bear. First killed on the plateau in 50 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of scary having it hanging over my shoulder here, but
He'll keep you straight
I'll
and
just
narrow.
keep talking and keep looking the other direction. Well, we're on the plateau. We're up here, so let's talk about some radio stations from Cookeville. We appreciate our radio partners, WUCT Power 94.1 News Talk. We appreciate those guys and gals out there running the show. We appreciate all our radio partners for highlighting WildCast on their stations, and I hope our hunters and anglers and wildlife watchers out there enjoy the show on those stations. Appreciate them for running it. If you don't follow us on social media, follow us out there. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us just about anywhere. So now on Carbon TV. I don't want to forget that Carbon TV. You can download that on your smart TV. You can go to their website. But you can now watch WildCast on Carbon TV.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Very cool. Well, Mike, thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Mike.
We're invading your space today. But
In a good way.
But you've been on the show, I don't know, 2-3 times maybe now. But let's remind folks who you are and what you do for the agency and kind of how you grew up.
Thank you. Mike Jolley, of course, and Region 3 Reservoirs Manager. And I've been in the reservoir crew for 30 years, this year, actually.
30 years? You're not going to leave us, are you?
No, I hope not.
Good.
And started out as a part-time technician. That allowed me to finish my schooling at Tennessee Tech. I got my wildlife fisheries degree there. So really, it's been watching things grow and develop over time, all the reservoirs, which in Region 3, we have 9 reservoirs.
No small task.
Yeah, and 150,000 acres of water, and they're very individual too, and require individual management. And got a really good reservoir crew too. That of course makes all that possible.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So you grew up fishing and hunting, didn't you?
I did. I grew up
Oh, yeah.
on Watts Bar Reservoir, and a very avid hunter and fisherman. In the springtime, I may have been known to lay out of school and go fishing a time or two, and when the
Or
weather looked
turkey
good, or turkey
Or
hunting,
deer
or
hunting.
deer hunting. Yeah, so really grew up with that, and I've always had a love and a passion for that, and I guess it's why it really makes this not feel like a job. It's able to give back to something that you have so much respect for and passion for. It's exciting always. So.
Yeah. And you get that love from your dad, I'm sure. And we talked about your dad a lot. He shared that passion and got you going.
He did. He had me on his hip at an early age, and we were stream fishing pretty much every weekend, and of course in the deer woods. And he's a very good woodsman, very avid hunter, and taught me the basics and beyond for sure. And I've never let go of it, and that love's just developed through that. So.
Yeah. It's one thing I love about the Region 3 employees and all TWRA employees, that passion for wildlife. Say walking in every day, everybody loves what I love. How cool is that?
Yeah. That's the reason we're here.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to get started today, Mimi?
Let's hear about Chickamauga. There's so much. It's always in the top 10 reservoirs in the nation.
Yeah.
No pressure.
In Tennessee. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it is a very unique fishery, and it's nationally acclaimed, and mostly for bass fishing.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know what it's mostly known for, it is bass fishing.
These guys right here, right on the table.
This right here, and it goes back several decades. In the 80s, 1986, Bassmaster Classic first came to Chickamauga, and it was the first time they had cameras in their boats. There were a lot of fish caught, but there wasn't any real quality heavy fish caught. But that's changed. And a lot of that's changed because of a Florida largemouth bass stocking program that we implemented in the year 2000. And we've seen great results out of that. In 2015, there was a new record largemouth, 15 pounds, 3 ounces, caught by Gabe Keene. And that broke a 60-plus-year-old record.
Yeah.
And even outside of bass, Chickamauga is really known for crappie fishing. We have a good striped bass fishery there. Of late, we've got about a 9-year-old walleye stocking program there, and it's really doing good. So we're excited about it. It has a lot to offer.
And not just the lake right there, but we were talking with John Dalton with Creek Fishing Adventures. He likes to fish those creeks right off of Chickamauga.
Yeah.
And talked about how rich in life they are.
It really is. It's a really resilient reservoir, and it's kind of like on autopilot. We can't take credit for everything there, all the successes. But it's just a really good host for a fishery there and for multiple species. So it's exciting to be a part of Chickamauga.
I just want to say Gabe Keene broke a 60-year record. That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
And it really does stem from the reservoir work that you all put in science to do. We're not just dropping fish in.
Right.
A lot of science goes into it, and I'm so proud of you and your crew for the work that's done to get to those good numbers and help our anglers be successful.
Yeah, well,
including me.
Yeah, we get a lot of positive feedback. It's people are excited, and that's one thing that made the project a success too. Is all the support we had from anglers and stuff. Willing to take that on because it is an investment in time too. Things in the fish world don't typically happen automatic and really quick. So in a stocking program, you have to wait to see that come to fruition.
So how old is the reservoir? Tell us a little bit about that body of water.
So Chickamauga was created in 1940. So it's 83-year-old. And, that's a challenge in itself as reservoirs get older. The challenges there, just the degradation and habitat that was traditionally there, sedimentation. It's a little over 36,000 acres, so a very big reservoir.
Yeah.
Of course, a main stem reservoir on the Tennessee River, and it has some major tributaries, Hiwassee River being the biggest there, but some towns that are around it are Dayton, kind of in the midsection there, and Chattanooga on the southern end. So,
a lot of use.
A lot of use. Yeah.
And so what is it known for? So we talked about largemouth bass, but you talked about those walleye, crappie.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big draw to that area?
So the 65% of the people who fish Chickamauga are bass fishing, and that's what they're doing. And it is like you mentioned, it's on the national radar. A lot of tournament circuits are coming in throughout the year. Have really filled up a lot of the towns and grown communities.
I mean, hotels are being built just for that. Yeah,
they are, and it's really amazing. But also, outside of the obvious there, the crappie fishing is typically the number 2 fish on Chickamauga that people are fishing for. And it's a really good fishery as well. And catfishing, it's awesome down there, and it's one of those on autopilot. We don't do anything really to enhance it. It's just got the right ingredients that promote that population to really be sustainable and provide a great opportunity. But even if you get into the bluegill and the red ear sunfish on Chickamauga, it's really good, and it does it on its own down there. So it's really kind of a magic place. It's special.
That's one thing. Here we are with a biologist, fisheries biologist, reservoirs biologist, but we are very aware of the economic impact
Yes.
that fisheries can have on a region. And it's one thing that our anglers aren't often thinking about, but we do. And I appreciate that. Yeah, tourism is a big thing when it comes to fish in the South.
It is, and it's been well documented that Chickamauga is a multi-million-dollar industry, for communities annually down there. So.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that history of stocking Chickamauga and where we are today.
Yeah, so early on, pretty much the management, because Chickamauga is so good, most of the management was just a few stocking regimes, sauger, striped bass. That was pretty much it. In the 80s, and it was pretty liberal bass limits. Is like 10 at 12 inches. A crappie were 30 a day. And those are a little more conservative now, but they've just fell in line with statewide regulations. So now it's 5 at 15 inches on the bass, largemouth, and then only 15 a day on the crappie. So stocking still continues. And for example, with sauger, because they were so hard to deal with in hatchery systems and even collect, they're really they're known as Tennessee's mystery fish. But in 2011, I decided to change from sauger to walleye on Watts Bar, and it was very successful. So in 2014, I implemented that on Chickamauga, and it's been great. I talked to a guide service, the guy that owned it out of Chattanooga in the last few weeks, and he told me from January of next year through May, they have every weekend booked except one for walleye fishing trip.
Wow.
People coming from all over the nation to fish for that. So that's how things have evolved. So now we stock, the Florida largemouth bass and the striped bass and the walleye, but it's just it's got the right ingredients, to promote those fisheries. It doesn't work everywhere just because you stock.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. What are you looking what are you looking for on Chickamauga that allows that?
Well, it really exemplifies what you would want in a reservoir. So habitat, even though it is older, it still obviously has the right habitat to have natural reproduction. So even though we're stocking species, except for striped bass that we don't expect to spawn, but they still have enough natural spawning success that they're really promoting and enhancing that fishery. So it's also got a really good forage base, different species of shad in there, very abundant, and it's been, like I said, really resilient through the years, where other reservoirs seem to have taken more of a hit, maybe. But it's got the right ingredients, to really promote those stocking programs.
And then one other question I thought of, Mike, is where are those fish you're stocking coming from?
So currently, and for the last few years, all the fish, but I would talk about the Florida largemouth bass. We started that in 2000, and we were having to get those fish, which are fingerlings when we stock them. They're 1 to 3 inches roughly. We would have to get those from a lot of other states. And now we're raising those. TWRA hatcheries are raising those themselves. And so, as are all the fish that we stock.
Yeah, that's awesome. And shout out to all the employees in the region who are working on
that. They do an awesome job.
I was with Mike once when they were stocking. You remember those two gentlemen, and one of them said, "We're putting in fingerlings," and one of the gentlemen said, "Fishing's going to be good next year." I said, whoa, it's going to take a little bit.
That's exactly right.
What's that growth rate? What are you seeing? Like, how long does it take that fish to reach that maturity if someone's going to enjoy catching it?
Yeah, so a lot of our size limits are set up to when they become of a krillable size. In other words, where it's legal size to catch them, like crappie 10 inches. That's typically a 3-year-old fish, and that's allowed that fish to. They can do it as early as 2-year-old, be sexually mature, where they can, give back through spawning naturally there. But at 3-year-old, roughly 10 inches, and then on bass, typically. Well, on Chickamauga, it's about a 3-year-old bass down there is about 13 to 14 inches. So they grow from there, but they have really good growth rates there compared to other reservoirs too.
So give us just a few years.
Yeah, exactly. So
after those initial stockings take place, but now the fish are in the system. Obviously, with Chickamauga being so popular, not just in Tennessee but across the United States. We're seeing the success of those stockings that started so long ago. And I gotta throw one more thing out there on you and brag on you. how many years of research did you do before introducing smallmouth, or I'm sorry, Florida largemouth into Chickamauga?
Yeah,
How
so
many years of research?
quite a bit, and we looked at data that had been collected statewide in the 1980s on different reservoirs in the state that showed that there were some Florida genes already present.
Awesome.
So in stocking the Florida bass, we knew that we weren't totally just throwing a brand new product out there that was going to cause problems. So there was a lot of research in that. A lot of other states, Oklahoma and some even southern states, had put Florida bass in. So we knew what the interaction had been there. So, and a lot of people ask us, well, hey, if Alabama bass are such a bad thing, why do you stock Floridas? And Floridas and Northerns are basically both a subspecies of largemouth bass. So they're very similar, and they're not really any known interferences between the two. So what we found out through stocking those Floridas is when they hybridize with the existing population, the Northerns, is that kicks out even a faster growing fish. And that state record was an F1,
Oh yeah.
which had a Northern parent and a Florida parent. So it was like a 50-50.
So what about in your sampling that y'all have done? You think there's going to be another record come out of there?
I get asked that a lot. So, our sampling shows a lot of promise. And just for an example, back around 2000 in our electrofishing, we look at how many fish per hour we catch that are 15 inches or greater. And that was about 5 an hour. Most recent surveys were over 30 an hour on Chickamauga.
Wow.
So there's a lot of potential there, right? So, but we still see every year fish that are being caught in the double digits. When we depend on tournaments and stuff, and we'll go visit and get information from some of those as we can to find out what they're catching, because they're targeting big fish.
Definitely.
We're doing electrofishing as well, but some of those big fish are a little tougher to capture at times. But the potential's there. It wouldn't surprise me any day if it happened, but if there's a little bit of lag in it, who knows there as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've talked a lot about the fish itself and that kind of management, but like habitat, you mentioned it's an 80-something-year-old lake, or
83.
83-year-old lake. So, what kind of habitat stuff are we doing?
Yeah, so quite a bit, and it's really evolved through the years. We used to do some partnerships, and we would go in and plant cypress trees for shoreline stabilization. All kind of different habitat there, and then we would put just brush in, and most of it was focused then on just fish attractor places that would help the fish be located for the fishermen to catch and make it easier. And a lot of the concentration now is putting habitat in areas where good spawning, historically there's been good spawning efforts with bass and crappie there. So if we can get some cover in there for the juvenile fish, it adds a layer of protection for them as they're young and as they're growing. And then even throughout the year, it also allows some refuge for the adult fish to be able to hide in or do ambush for their prey or whatnot. So we do a lot of that. And those sites that we've put in are on our website as well too. So with 9 reservoirs, we do a rotation. So we're not on Chickamauga every year, but we are hitting them pretty hard. And thankfully, we've had some work units, some high school fishing teams that have helped, and different donations, that even come in outside of our own funding to help with habitat projects.
Yeah, we're not just talking 1 or 2 fish attractors.
Yeah, it's several. Yeah, we put in.
I see the truckloads going, trailer fulls going.
Yeah, we put in over 100 just in the last few months on a couple of arms in Chickamauga there. So.
Yeah, pretty impressive work.
Put you on the spot real quick.
Yeah.
But like y'all use different structures, different types of materials. Ease people's minds that, we're not contaminating the water with these structures that we're putting in. It's good for the fish, good for the habitat, and it's not hurting anything.
Yeah.
We get those questions.
I'm glad you brought that up. So there's a real dilemma. Used to it was chainsaws around the bank cutting brush. Well, there's so many other things to consider now, bad habitat and different things, and maybe you cause erosion to happen, and you just can't do it around the lakes anymore. So getting brush that's available to even put in is hard. But the plastics and some of the commercial products that we're using have been studied by multiple states, looked at, and it's what most states have really gone to for a lot of it because of longevity. Once you put it in, we don't have to focus on that area again in 3 to 5 years where the brush would be deteriorated. It's still there. A lot of it is concrete and wooden stakes, so that's pretty natural. It's not going to cause any harm there. So we of all of our research and knowledge and talking to other states and going to multi-state workshops, we found no reason not to use, different products that we're using. I know sometimes they look bad in a picture because it's like a bunch of plastics, but they do have their purpose. And for feasibility is another big thing. It's a really good way to be able to put more habitat out that's going to last longer and allow us to do more areas.
For the benefit of fish.
Yeah, glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So you touched base on some of this already, but talk a little bit more about the challenges of reservoir management. I mean, you've touched base on a few things, but let's focus on that for a second.
A
lot of challenges.
Yeah, a lot of challenges, getting older, like the one that you talked about there. And, reservoirs being unique, it's really you're having to look. And Chickamauga within itself has unique fisheries. The upper third of the reservoir is more riverine, so you're going to have different species inhabiting that. That need attention, looked at, evaluations, and then the lower 2/3 is more lake-like. And then you have the Hiwassee River. That's a totally different system in itself, and it meets a trout stream, on the upper edge of it that our streams crew manages. And so those are challenges. Invasive species. Chickamauga, for example, zebra mussels have in the last several years, of course, invaded most of the systems down the Tennessee River chain there, if not all, and then the Alabama bass. We talked about that. That's going to provide a lot of layer of management decisions in very short future. And then aquatic vegetation. And a lot of that's good, but not all of it's good. Some of it's invasive. There's two different types of hydrilla, monoecious and a dioecious, and the monoecious is really bad. It's really thick. It comes up 4 or 5 feet and forms a big dense wall, and fish can't really utilize it. Really locks up the reservoir, so not all of that's good.
Who manages
Great
vegetation?
So TWRA does not manage aquatic vegetation. So that is the operating authority, and on Chickamauga that would be TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, and they manage that. Any permitting that's done would need to be under their guidelines and stipulations. We don't do any kind of assessments on abundance of it or anything like that. So that's not anything we do. We do, see kind of results of it, population densities up and down through the years and kind of what it does with the fisheries. But we don't do anything with managing aquatic vegetation. Thanks for bringing that up. Get a lot of calls about that.
We do get a lot of calls about that. So what are some of the other challenges? I mean, that's a big body of water.
Well, for Chickamauga specifically, challenges there would be the high pressure. So we talked about it being a national destination.
People are coming here.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions about that, like, hey, how long can this place hold up to this kind of pressure? Because the locals are really complaining about not having a boat ramp to put in because they're always clogged up with all these people fishing. Now, on one way, that's a big check mark for success, right? We've got a good fishery, people are coming in, but it's also putting a lot of pressure on the fishery. And if you talk about bass, one thing that we've constantly tried to steer people away from are those summertime tournaments. When that water gets above 75 degrees, if you can do away with them, that's good, or at least cut back the number of fish you're weighing in, because it's an exponential growth as water temperatures go up on mortality of fish. Invasive species would be another one. And that we have to constantly evaluate is stakeholder groups. People have different interests. And going back to the aquatic vegetation, you have all the lakefront owners, and they want it cleaned away from their dock, and rightfully so. But the fishermen don't want any of it sprayed because they like it for the fish. So having to kind of balance that and look at that. So those are some of the, I guess, immediate challenges. Access areas. Going back to that one, we constantly, when we talk to our fishermen, they're in need of more access areas. And TWRA doesn't own every ramp around the reservoir either. So but
good point.
But we do we do a great job of taking care of what we got, and even partnership and at times, to try to expand boat ramps to make it available for people.
Yeah. Did we cover everything of the challenges that lake provides to our management, anglers?
Probably not everything. Those are the big hitters. And as far as challenges, the way we evaluate, I guess, and look at kind of what challenges that are out there that maybe we don't see with the naked eye is through constant evaluations through our spring electrofishing surveys. We have creel programs and talk to anglers and document their catches, and we get socioeconomics from all those kind of things. We do different kinds of netting, seining, and just engaging with all that, and then pouring over that data and looking at it comparatively, 10, 20 years, and seeing kind of where things are going. And I guess a big challenge in going back to the bass, what's really leading management decisions with that stocking program are genetic tests. So we collect fish, and we know that what age fish, we can age them. We know what size, obviously, that fish is, and we take a fin clip and send it off, and we get a genetic composite back of that fish. So we'll be able to tell this composite of fish, F1, a pure northern, pure Florida, or some convoluted of all that. This is our best growing fish. So that's what we want to be tailoring that place to put in it or try to grow or whatever, because we know that's the best product. So that takes time too. So that's something, if you look at management from an earlier question that y'all had, back then versus now, is genetics is really leading a lot of what we're doing there, because we can identify the best product we have through genetics.
Yeah, that's amazing. And something I think the general public doesn't necessarily think about, and you can't do it with the naked eye. You've taught me a lot about that, Mike, and you just can't do it with the naked eye. And I'll say my cubicle's across from his, and I see the notebooks full of data and hear him punching on those keys on the computer, and it's the part of the fisheries biologist that I'm happy to share. Thanks for sharing all that.
It is.
Well, you talk about the right genetics and challenge with working with people and different opinions, and then the fact that this is now a Bill Dance signature lake too. So that's another element that goes into attracting folks there, and what kind of work's going on with that? I mean, I know each lake in that system has something going on. It is.
So I think initially the Bill Dance is, they're trying to open up some areas for have some mega tournaments, and I think they've already got some sites probably selected there. And recently they were in Dayton at a tournament down there, and promoting it and supporting, everything local there, and the fishery and the community and the fishery, and bringing a spotlight to that. For us, it adds another layer of pressure.
Yeah, a little more work.
The expectation, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you feel that pressure?
I do, and I feel it. I get calls from Major League Fishing and BASS, and they'll say, "Hey, Chickamauga was ranked this 5 years ago, and maybe it slipped 2 spots in our eyes. And what do you think about that? Or where's it look at in the future? Or or Dayton, their tourism council will call and ask opinions on different things, and there's a lot of expectation on that, and that's why I say what I did in the beginning too. That reservoir brings a lot of ingredients on its own, so if it fails, it's not going to be all of our quality. No, we really don't expect it to do that because of the great history it has.
Really quick, boy, time goes way too fast. Really quickly, tell us about that 90%.
Yeah, so for the last 10 years, as we talk to anglers, we've had 90%, of those pretty much that really are in agreement with the management work that we're doing in fisheries on Chickamauga Reservoir.
Yeah, they're seeing successes, and they appreciate 90%.
90%. That's been
amazing.
Consistent.
That's pretty
For
good.
10 years, that's been consistent.
Yes.
Wow. That's great.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
I can't take all the credit. Good crew, good reservoir.
Right. Well, good reservoir, good crew, and thanks for the hard work from you guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
y'all
you.
put it in for sure, and want to have what's best for the sportsman and for everyone to enjoy that lake.
I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about it. Y'all are great hosts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Man, make me blush.
Blushing, yeah.
My face is red as my beard. All right. Well, it's been fun. Thank you again, and thank you, Mimi.
Oh, my pleasure. Get out there to Chickamauga, but maybe on a weekday.
Yeah. Good point.
Fishing's great right
Good
now,
point.
so visit tnwildlife.org, find those places, find those boat ramps, and enjoy.
Yeah. No matter hot or cold, it's great fishing out there.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate y'all watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.